Hey guys, Tom here again from synthhacker.com, and welcome back to another tutorial for X Record Serum. In this video we're going to be looking at making a really nice sound from one of Boards of Canada's tracks called Roygbiv, which is a really weird name. Let me just get all the parts playing here, one second. So there's just like a bit of a piano backdrop, and then you'll hear the lead over the top as well. So I absolutely love making sounds like this because I absolutely love like music like Boards of Canada and just different types of electronica and stuff like this. And this is a really soft, really nice lead. Not like typically something that you might associate with a synth like Serum. You know, you typically hear these sounds created with like analog synths or something like that, or analog emulations, but I did the best that I possibly could to try and make this sound as authentic as possible. There's a lot of stuff to get through, so I'll just initialize the patch straight away. There's a lot of stuff going on here. It actually took me quite a while to figure out the sound. So we're gonna be making this sound completely from scratch. As always, guys, though, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel. It really helps support me. And also, if you haven't done already, go ahead and check out my website over at synthhacker.com, or click the link in the description below to go check out my preset packs for Serum as well. That's another way you can really support me and the channel, and also get your hands on some like really nice presets for Serum as well. But without further ado, we're going to go ahead and begin creating this really nice Boards of Canada lead completely from scratch. So we're going to be using both oscillator A and B, and also the noise oscillator and also the filter, of course, so let's switch all those on to begin with. The wavetable that we're going to use for oscillator A and B is the basic mini wavetable. And the waveform, should I say, that we're actually going to use is this. It's like a really thin kind of pulse waveform. I don't really know how to explain it, like what it's actually called, but yeah, it's kind of like a bit like a pulse wave. It's got like a really thin sound to it, a really nice soft sound, which we're going for. And both these are going to be exactly the same waveform, but what we're going to do is pitch oscillator B up an octave as well, and we're just going to leave both these oscillators with one voice of unison. Another important thing that I'm going to do straight from the get-go is actually make the sound monophonic. It is a monophonic lead, and then we're also going to give it a little bit of portamento as well, so that we get a nice little bit of slide from note to note, as you will have heard at the beginning. The noise source we're going to use is one of my favorites in the analog section. It's this J106 high pass, and we're going to bring the level right down. This is just going to add a nice little bit of kind of like analog noise to the sound. Again, just adding to that analog feel that we're going for with the Boards of Canada lead. And then what we're going to do, we're just going to set up our amplitude envelope, which we're also going to use to modulate a few different things as well. We're just going to give it around 30 milliseconds of attack to really kind of soften up the start of the sound, so we don't want it to be too harsh at the beginning. And then we're going to have like a really kind of slow, really slowly decaying envelope, somewhere about 2.8 or something like that. Just going to move this curve down a little bit, and also give the sound a little bit of release as well, probably quite a lot actually, about like just over a second. And then we're going to move into the LFO section. We're actually going to use an LFO here to slightly detune both these oscillators from one another. We don't want it to be too extreme, but just enough to give it the kind of emulation of like oscillator drift that you'd get in an analog synth. So we're going to set those up as so. We're going to set it, so we're going to keep it so it's off, so it's not being triggered or anything like that. It's just left to kind of like free almost, so it's like a free LFO. And then we're going to turn the BPM off because we want it to kind of have a natural glide. We don't want it to be synced with the rhythm of the track. We just want this to kind of be really kind of slow moving LFO. So I'll show you what we've got so far. just solo it. So you can kind of hear that like oscillator drift, like the slight detuning. What the other thing I'm going to make sure, of course, is that oscillator B is being routed through the filter as well as oscillator A. So you can hear that really nice kind of oscillator drift, like the detune sounds really, really cool. The next thing we're going to do though is actually change the filter type. We're actually, instead of using a low pass filter, we're going to use the, let me see, which one did I use? I think it wasn't band pass, I think it was the band notch filter. Yeah, it was this. So this is kind of like a hybrid filter between a bandpass and a notch filter, and it's just really good because it kind of removes some of the like muddy low end, and it just makes it sound like really kind of like crisp and thin. Although I wouldn't say crisp because it does also roll off some of the high end, so it doesn't quite sound so harsh. And I think that's just what I ended up settling on for this sound. I also used envelope 1 here to modulate the cutoff position of this. You can hear it's got like a really nice slow roll off because we've applied this envelope 1 to it, which has got quite a slow decay. So like while the notes are playing like quite quickly, you hear a lot of high end, but then when we have like a longer note pressed down, you get this really nice like glide of the cutoff. I also just pushed the resonance a little bit as well, and then really this is like the kind of start of the sound, but then what really kind of changed the sound a lot is what I added in the effects section, which we did a few different things. The first thing I did was just put a compressor at the start of the chain. This was because I was like, with all the effects I was doing and all the filtering, I was struggling to get enough volume out of the sound. So I just used a compressor simply just to boost the overall gain of the sound, really. Just so it's nice and loud. Obviously, if that's too loud, you can like turn it down in the mix, but I wanted to make sure that the preset itself was loud enough if it needed to be. The next thing I did was add some not tube distortion, soft clip distortion. And I just left the kind of drive where it is, and just brought the mix down a little bit. This is just to add like a nice little bit of distortion. But then what I did was also added a filter in the effects chain, and what I did, because you'll notice at the start the lead itself is like really soft, and it's actually got quite a lot of the high end rolled off of it. So what I did was I actually used a 24 dB low pass filter in the effects chain just to kind of roll off some of the highs. What I did was just make sure that the resonance is all the way down and make sure the mix and the filter's all the way up. And then I simply used the same filter envelope again just to roll off some of the highs, really. You can hear that really kind of polishes up the sound. It's really, really cool of Serum or Steve Duda, should I say, to include like the really nice kind of analog filters in the effects chain, because it really allows you to polish up sounds. The next thing I did was add a EQ, and what I did with this was actually roll off some of the low end using like the high pass filter. Sorry, the high pass like section of the EQ, essentially using it like a high pass filter. I boosted the frequency to just less than halfway, just to roll off anything under like 500 hertz, anything like that. And then what I did with the high end is actually use a high shelf EQ to just again just attenuate some of the higher frequencies. So we put the frequency to about just over like 6,000 hertz, something like that. boost the Q a little bit so it's like quite extreme, and then just like brought the gain right down, as you can see here. And then finally what I did was add a reverb. But what I actually did was put the reverb after the EQ, just so that the EQ itself isn't rolling off the high end of the reverb, but instead just rolling off the high end of the sound before it then enters the reverb, which I think just sounds a bit cleaner. And then I just made the reverb really wet. I mean, you can use the inbuilt reverb in Serum, or you could use your own. It's completely up to you. And I also boosted the low cut on this reverb just to again take out some of the muddy low end. Boosted the high cut just to take out some of the harsh highs as well. And then what we're left with is this sound. So just a really nice soft lead. It is a little bit complex to make, especially in the effects section. There's a lot going off, but it really does pay off to pay this kind of like attention to detail, because it all accumulates into what can be a really nice sound, like this one. I really like this sound, and love creating stuff like this. So yeah, hopefully you found this tutorial useful. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe to stay up to date with new tutorials. If you have any suggestions for future sounds, feel free to leave them down below. And again, if you haven't already, go ahead and check out my presets for Serum over at synthhacker.com. I really appreciate that. And yeah, that's all from me, guys. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.